Well, thank you, Kristen. Well, the new book is titled Union Made, Working People and the Rise of Social Christianity in Chicago. Its author is Valparaiso University history professor, Dr. Heath Carter. And Dr. Carter, thank you for joining us here on Lakeshore Report.
Thank you so much. Delighted to be here.
Well, first of all, what is social Christianity?
Yeah, it's a great question. Social Christianity is a vein of faith that argues that the message of Christianity is not just relevant to individuals, but to all of society, to how we live together in the world.
How does it differ, say, from traditional Christianity?
Yeah. Some Christians have thought that, fundamentally the Christian gospel is about saving individual souls. And the proponents of social Christianity argue that, hey, it's not just about saving souls, it's also about perfecting society, making the world a better place, a place that better reflects God's wishes effectively.
Now, in your book, you wanted to sort of give a spotlight to those who often get overlooked in the rise of social Christianity in Chicago, and that's the working people, correct?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, typically historians who have told the story of this movement, it was an important movement in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, they've typically focused on the role of ministers and seminary professors. And what I found as I was doing my research is that workers, blacksmiths and seamstresses and glove makers and teamsters and the like were in fact very important in kind of getting this movement going. Partly it was just them thinking about the implications of Christianity for their own lives and for their own experiences and speaking out of that and saying, hey, we believe Jesus is a carpenter, God is on the side of the working people.
But also there was also this sort of pushback by those in the clergy or in the pulpit. They weren't really sure about this rising sort of union movement. There was a lot of pushback, correct?
Yeah, in the early decades of the labor movement, the churches are very nervous at best. Protestant churches often see the unions as a menace to the common good. In many cases, Catholic priests and the hierarchy are concerned that the unions are going to be a gateway into socialism for their people, and so they're very, they may say nice things, but when it comes right down to it and there's a strike, they tend to be very critical.
Now we do tend to think of Labor Day that's coming up on Monday,
right?
But also there was also another sort of Labor Day back in the 1910s. This kind of grew out of there, correct?
Yeah, I mean, part of the story that I'm telling here is the story of how workers changed the church's mind about labor and about organized labor in particular. And part of the way they do this, the AFL, American Federation of Labor, in 1910, they sponsor Labor Sunday. Across the country, they reach out to churches and say, hey, we want you to devote your worship service the Sunday before Labor Day to worker justice issues. And in fact, they do. And in Chicago and around the country, workers actually preach from the pulpit and tell the gospel according to the unions that Labor Sunday.
Well, what do you want readers to come away with after reading your book?
Yeah, a lot of economists are talking about our time as a second Gilded Age. My book's about the first Gilded Age, the late 19th century. And I think the thing that's so interesting and fascinating about this period is you see people engaged in a vigorous debate about the morality of capitalism. So I think, people who read this book will hear voices that have something to say into our moment. What does Christianity have to say about inequality? What does it have to say about workers getting together, banding together for their own good? So I think that the voices of the past speak into this present moment.
Well, at this present moment, you've got a couple of book signings coming up where you're going to highlight the book. Where are they really quickly?
Yeah, I'll be in Chicago next Tuesday, the day after Labor Day, starting at 6 o'clock at the Haymarket Pub and Brewery in the West Loop. And next Wednesday, the following day, I'll be in Valparaiso at Forefathers Brewery, signing books and talking to people.
So was writing this book a labor of love?
It was a labor of love, absolutely. I enjoyed every minute of it. It's been a delight.
Well, Professor Heath Carter is a history professor at Valparaiso University. He's the author of the new book, Union Made. Professor Carter, thank you for joining us here on Lakeshore Report.
Thanks for having me.